You've heard the phrase a million times, right? David versus Goliath. It's the ultimate underdog story. But what if the way we usually tell that story kind of misses the most important part? Today, we're going to dig into this ancient account, not just as a story, but as a masterclass in how perspective can turn an impossible giant into a conquerable challenge.
But first, let me ask you something. Have you ever faced a challenge that just felt impossible? You know, a real giant in your life, something totally overwhelming? What did you do? Just hold on to that thought, because that feeling is right at the very heart of this story. Okay, so let's set the scene. We're in the Valley of Elah. Picture this. You've got the Philistine army camped out on one hill, and the Israelite army on the hill right across from them. And down in the valley between them, nothing. Just this tense, terrifying stalemate. And it's all because of one single, massive problem. And that problem, he has a name, Goliath. This guy was the Philistines' champion. Now, the text says he was 6 cubits and a span tall. What does that even mean? Well, it translates to roughly 9 feet, 9 inches. I mean, just try to imagine that. He'd make today's tallest basketball players look short. He was a literal giant. And it wasn't just his height. The guy was decked out in some serious gear. His bronze coat of mail, just his vest, weighed around 125 pounds. Let that sink in for a second. His armor alone weighed more than many people. It's just unreal. And his spear? Forget about it. The iron point, just the tip, weighed 15 pounds. That's heavier than a bowling ball. This wasn't just some soldier. He was basically a walking, talking siege weapon, the physical embodiment of overwhelming power. And here's the thing. This wasn't a one-time event. For 40 days, every single morning and every single evening, Goliath would stroll out and terrorize the army of Israel. This was pure psychological warfare, a prolonged siege of fear that had an entire nation completely paralyzed. And this was his challenge, a one-on-one, winner-take-all duel. The scripture is crystal clear about the reaction. It says King Saul and all the Israelites were dismayed and terrified. They weren't just scared, their spirits were completely broken. But then, into this scene of absolute national despair walks our protagonist. And he's not some legendary warrior. He's not a general with a brilliant plan. He's not even a soldier. He's basically a delivery boy. Yep, this is David. He's the youngest of 8 brothers, and his day job is being a shepherd. He's only at the battlefront because his dad sent him on an errand. Seriously. Hey son, take this food to your older brothers and, just check in and see how they're doing. So David shows up, right on cue, just as Goliath is coming out for his same old twice-a-day taunt. To the rest of the army, it's the soundtrack of their fear. It's just another Tuesday. But David, he's hearing this for the very first time. And he doesn't hear an invincible giant. He hears an insult against his God. And in that moment, David's reaction just flips the entire script. He shows us that the real conflict isn't between a shepherd and a giant. The real battle is the one happening inside the Israelite camp, the battle between paralyzing fear and active faith. I mean, the difference in perspective is just staggering. The army saw an unbeatable monster, a direct threat to their lives. David looked at the exact same guy and saw an uncircumcised Philistine, someone outside of God's family, who wasn't just defying an army, he was disrespecting the honor of God himself. With this one question, David completely reframes the entire conflict. It's no longer about Israel's army versus a giant. It's now about some challenger versus the living God. He just changed the whole math of the situation. So when they bring him before a skeptical King Saul, David doesn't present a military strategy. He gives him like a spiritual resume. He says, listen, I've protected my father's sheep from lions and bears out in the fields. Those private battles where no one was watching, that was my training. And he concludes, the Lord who rescued me will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine. So Saul, kind of convinced, offers David his own royal armor, the best military tech available. But David tries it on and pretty much says, I can't go in these. I'm not used to them. He rejects the world's solution. Instead, he chooses his own familiar tools, the ones God had already taught him to use with deadly skill. And so the stage is set. The 2 champions, representing 2 completely different sources of strength, finally meet down on the valley floor. You've got the giant covered in bronze and steel, and the shepherd boy armed with a staff and a sling. Goliath, of course, mocks him, but David responds with this powerful declaration. He lays out the terms of the battle right there. Goliath's confidence is in his weapons, human strength. David's confidence is in the name of the Lord Almighty. This is a spiritual showdown. And what happened next was just shockingly fast. David doesn't hesitate. He runs toward the giant. He reaches into his bag, pulls out a single stone, and with a practiced motion, he slings it. The stone hits its mark, sinking into Goliath's forehead. And the invincible champion just falls face down in the dirt. A 40-day siege was over in a matter of seconds.
It's an incredible story, but it's so much more than just a historical account of an underdog victory. So why has it stuck around? Why does it still resonate so deeply with us today? Because this story isn't just about winning a fight, it's a masterclass in perspective. It's about measuring our giants not against our own strength, but against the power of God.
So what are the big takeaways? Well, first, true victory comes from where you place your confidence, not from what kind of weapons you have. The story shows God values the heart over the resume, and that the faithfulness we build in private, like David protecting his sheep, is the very training we need for our public battles. By making the fight about God's honor instead of his own survival, David turned his fear into purpose, proving that ultimately the battle belongs to the Lord.
So how do we apply this? Our giants today might not be 9 feet tall. They're things like fear, addiction, injustice, or that crippling doubt in our own minds. David's approach teaches us to confront them not in our own strength, but in the name of the Lord. And our weapons? They aren't swords or armor. They're the tools God has already been refining in us. Our integrity, our prayers, our knowledge of his word. Those are our smooth stones. And that brings us right back to the beginning. Think about that impossible challenge you identified. What would happen if you reframed it? What if you saw it not as a threat to you, but as an opportunity for God's power and honor to be put on full display? How might that change everything?